I could have made this entire episode about Maria. We have so much to talk about. We're going to dive right in. But first off, we do have to have this up here just to say that I have seen a lot of this game. This is not to say I'm good. Please understand that there are so many people who are better. But I've seen a large portion of it. Let's jump right into Light Season because we need to get on with things. I want to talk about speed, and I know this is weird to show it going down, but this is actually in conjunction with the Omni-Tank tier list that we talked about. Understand that this Rutger has a ton of speed and still gets doubled by Veronica. So this is not to say that speed is not valuable. Speed itself has probably increased in value, or rather definitely has, but a lot of units are pushed out of that threshold. And we talked about that being like in the 80 speed range. Like, it is nuts. And it was just really driven home for me by this replay. Next up, we have the T. Now, so this is Elise. I wanted to talk about Elise and just say first off that Elise has not lost value. Elise is sustaining. She is still a very good unit and has many, many use cases. You can see this is just a remake of the old Abby Pasta, which I love. I thought this was so much fun, seeing Elise just come in and smack things. But this works because of Elise's Flash Staff. So just understand, if you've invested in this unit isn't going anywhere. Next up we have... So I was going to make this a double video and talk about both Sabotage, which I think has gained huge value, and also Catria Balls, which up until this point I had said dropped in value a bit. Now, I'm going to completely take Catria off the board, which I know is a bit counterintuitive, saying that Catria has lost value. But understand, Sabotage is made to counter Catria Balls. When you go up and tank them now, I mean, it reduces your stats based on how many units are around you. And because of the way Catria Balls are made, I mean, they lend themselves to being weakened by this thing. It's fantastic. I love Mark. I think Mark is here to stay, or at least for those who enjoy using him, he will definitely be of value, and I think he's going to be around. We talk about him a bit later as well. I'm a huge fan. The reason that we don't have Catria Balls going down, though, is because of Maria. Now, I've got a different Catria Ball that I want to show, but I thought this was a chance to show Maria on offense. And I want to make it very clear, I think Maria on offense is okay. In this particular case, with this combination of Vantage and Maria, I think she is spectacular. But not everyone has the skill set to do this, and not everyone has the skills to do this. Like, they identified the exact weak point in this where they could dodge Milla, went in and just got stuff done. They really didn't even need Maria for this, but you can see how it would work. It is a very nice setup here, and I really enjoyed this clear, even though, you know, it was against me. Just understand that the real power of Maria is going to be on defense, because you just have so many options on offense. That being said, I love new toys, and I love how fun they are. Next up, though, we need to jump right into Astra Anima. And first off, I know this is weird for me to be showing an all Edelgard team and telling you that she's dropped in value, and you're probably wondering why I'm doing this. I am seeing Edelgard at least twice a season, every season, for the past 2 months. Summoners, enough with this unit. This unit is not working for you. Seriously, you need to move on. This unit is 2 years old. Like, her time has passed. So, if you're an Edelgard user, you know what? If you're an Edelgard user and she's working for you, I would like to know in the comments down below. I really want to know. Like, I'm not, no shade. Like, I want to know why I'm seeing her so much, and maybe I just have the exact teams to counter her. I don't know. Let me know in the comments, though. I would love to see it. If you are watching this, please don't build a 6 Edelgard defense. It's not a good time. Next up, we have Hit and Run. Okay, I know I have another Edelgard up here, and it's going to look like I'm picking on this unit, but understand that this is just hit and run in general is harder right now. And the big thing is guidance is here. And in particular, like this team uses double guidance. And so it is very hard to execute a hit and run because it is tough to run far enough away. There is just so much ground that guidance can cover. So this in particular is less about Edelgard herself and more because she is kind of the poster child for the hit and run, because that is what makes her so good, is she has those two modes. You can go hit and run or you can go Gale Force. And that makes her very powerful. Next up we have area of effect player phase teams. And a lot of this has to do with Maria. But even before her, these are such powerful strategies. This one is a neat one where they have, so they bring Alm's HP down and then they have Wrath on him. So you can see the reason they're waiting so many turns is for every turn, Wrath gives you another cooldown and gets this team closer to area of effect magic. So I thought this was very clever. I know this has been in use for a while, but I hadn't seen it. Now, the thing about Maria, and AoEs have always been very effective on the player phase. Given that she is going to be on more teams to directly compete against, to directly help you versus player phase teams, this is the one player phase team that she helps you none. Like, there is no benefit whatsoever. So just keep that in mind. If you are a player phase nut and Maria starts to become really common, which I believe she will, this is an alternative for you where you can go to the AoE route and there are a lot of crazy shenanigans that you can pull. Next up, Armored Beacon Summoners. This is just the it skill for defenses, for offenses, for everything. In the right hands, this is just spectacular. I know this is kind of a weird one to show because you can see Altina just get smacked immediately, like immediately gets taken off the board. But after that, I want you to see how many hits this young Hector takes. A lot of this is young Hector just being amazing. I really believe he is the premier Far Savior right now, which is nuts because there are so many good ones. But look at how many, it just hit after hit after hit. And yeah, the team has no answer. So, Hector, Armored Beacon in general, it's good. I've got another build that I want to show you a little later on, but this is, if you're building a defense, this is probably a skill you want to invest in. All right, next up, we have Maria, because of course we do. I've got two different replays I want to show you here, and the first is just player phase, and just to see this Femortis, and this is what people are talking about when they're getting worried about how this is going to work and what is going to happen. You can see Crom did not get the job done. I came in with Seliph and even chipped the unit down, ignoring the fact that the ending Seliph's turn with FOMO would probably mean that there's no way I can recover. I just really wanted to look at this as, can I beat this team? And Summoners, this is just phenomenal. I mean, 2 hits from 2 premier initiators, and this unit just laughed at them because Femortis had Maria support. I think you're going to see a lot of this. I think it's going to be interesting, and I think we're going to have to learn to adapt. The next up, though, and this is yet another piece of shenanigans, the other place this really helps is against tanking, and this is another thing you're going to have to watch out for. This Alir should beat this team handily. Like this shouldn't be a competition here. We end turn, we come in. Tana should get blasted here, but doesn't because of Maria. And then has Deadeye procced, and that completely erases anything that Alir has in the form of damage reduction. And after that, this is easy. So that's the last of Maria we're going to see as far as replays go, but I want to make sure, I don't believe that this unit is busted or will absolutely destroy the meta or is overly toxic. I just think this unit is different. There are a lot of units that we have, once we learned how to deal with them, they were much easier. I want you to think of Sigurd. Like, Sigurd was an absolute wreck, and then we learned strategies to deal with him, and it wasn't so bad. I've already shown you AoEs, if you're doing player phase, are absolutely crazy. this makes Lucia even better because Lucia just ignores drives and so ignores anything Maria does. Feel free to invest in Lucia. I think she's going to be good for a very long time. Just understand that this means you have to pivot, and we don't want to be in a game where the exact same unit will win the exact same way every time. Like we want a game that has different options, different avenues, and I think Maria is providing that. So I'm not quite as down on Maria as a lot of folks are. I think she's a lot of fun. But we won't talk too much longer about that. We've got to get to Chaos Season because we're going to talk about Far Saviors, and I've got two different defenses with them in here. But I'm begging you. For some reason, folks have stopped using Elamine, which I absolutely love. We could probably put in there that if you wanted to use Elamine, then Far Saviors bump right back up. But for whatever reason, folks have decided that she is just not a unit that they want to have run in Chaos. And so you should take advantage of this. By all means, like Catria Balls are back. They're amazing, and there are so many different ways to stat stack in Chaos Season right now. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second because we have, I'm really proud of this defense because it's gotten perfect 2 weeks in a row, even though we all know there's a lot of luck involved in that. Next up, I want to talk about Edelgard, and Edelgard in Chaos Season has just flat out lost value. And in order to, I want to make sure, like, this is a clear, I'll spoil it, they win. Edelgard wins this. I don't want you to think that Edelgard is unusable. I just want you to understand that Edelgard is harder to use now. It takes a lot more. This is a plus 10 Edelgard, and this is a very good player. They've used this unit a lot. They know exactly what they're doing. So understand that she's not the easy button that she used to be. You just put her on a team and you go. This is the third Edelgard team that faced me this season and the only one that won. And a lot of that is because the warping went weird and had Tana jump behind the flyer school there instead of warping forward. Did this unit know about mechanics and understand that? Looking at how they play this, probably. Like they look like they are very good at this game. So understand that is, knowing mechanics is another piece to getting her to work. But I just wanted to mention that. In general, she has lost value and is not as easy to play. Still a very usable unit. Like, don't panic. Just know that it's not going to be you use Edelgard and you're done. Next up. So we started talking about stat stacking and all of that greatness. This team is ridiculous because we have penalty doubler, grand strategy, different buffs going on everywhere, and it makes for this just absolutely nutty mixture. You can see that Catria actually outspeeds Felix, plus 35 attack and 35 speed. That is nutty. And once you outspeed Felix, he's just done. So be on the lookout. This is not so much about Triandra, but more about all the different things you can do with stat stacking in Chaos Season. So I highly encourage you to look into that. I think it is a good way to get things done. The last piece to this, though, stat stacking is great, but this is something we've talked about in the Discord a ton. It is more important to be unpredictable than it is to be good in Chaos Season. I know I've said that before in these reports, but it is really been driven home because I've seen so many of the folks in the Discord that they spend hours on these defenses for Chaos Season, and you get one team that has just the right combination and you're done. Because there are so many combinations you can have in Chaos. So you want something like double guidance that can bring a lot of unpredictability to what you're doing. So if you're trying something, I would definitely try guidance because I think that is a fantastic way to get things done. let's talk about Arena. So I'm going to talk about Tiki. Understand, I know I had the Hall of Forms video on Tiki, and I think a highly invested Tiki is very worth it and an excellent unit and something that you can be proud of and have fun. This is not that. This is a +1 Tiki without Armored Beacon. This is budget Tiki, and older legendaries right now are hurting, especially older enemy phase legendaries. Now, I just did a run with Alm, and if it's a player phase legendary, I think you are good to go, and that bonus unit is going to carry you far, and you're going to have a blast. But I mean, we had legendary Fallen Robin just this legendary Grima. There we go. And we just this last time, and this last month, she was absolutely terrible. So we are seeing how hard it is to run enemy phase builds and how expensive they are. Next up, I want to look at Dimitri. Now, as this is going, I do want to talk about rally pluses and the reason I have them going down. There are so many ways to counter them. You just saw Linus come in, and he basically, if you have a buff, then it works against you. And there are a lot of different effects that are working that way, and I expect more of them. So in general, I just don't think they hold the same value. I've never liked them. So as far as this Dimitri goes, this is an example of the type of reserve teams that you should be making. And I highly encourage you to make your reserve teams, just because they make Arena Assault so much more fun, so much easier. So make those, use them. Put Dimitri on one of them, because he just flat out counters some teams, and it makes it easy when you run up against a team in Arena Assault rather. You have Dimitri, you end turn, you're done. Last in Arena, I want to talk, and I know I've got Duodogger up there. In particular, this is about older duos who have held their value so well. I keep on expecting the need to update mine, because both Crom and Duodogger are over a year old. Duodogger is almost a year and a half old and still going very strong. What this basically means is, for those who are looking to invest in duos, and we talked about those, they really are right now, because of the Spark system, they are some of the most expensive units to get, period. But they hold up very well. So keep that in mind, and if you're looking at investing one of these, I still think that this is just an excellent way for you to go. I think you should really focus heavily on duos. I think they are the 6 stars of the game, and a year and a half later, you could still be using them and having a blast in both Arena and a ton of other modes, because I get a lot of use out of these 2 units. Summoner Duels. All right, so first up, this is kind of a weird thing to talk about with saviors, because I still think they are very valuable. I think we saw with this last season, I mean, just looking at, this was erosion season, the last 2, the SDR and the SDS. And so, of course, Far Saviors went down, but I think it showed a lot of us that we can function without them. And that's kind of a neat deal. Like, for instance, and we're talking about Far Saviors here, but I ran in SDR with Near Save and just had an absolute blast. It really countered the Cav meta that just went crazy because of PM1. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But it gave me options, but understand there are other options out there like Maria. And so what it does is it's expanding what we can do with teams and expanding different things. The Cav teams that you're seeing right here, the Conga lines, don't use them at all a lot of times. So they are coming down in value, but understand that's really talking more about the options that you have, which is neat. I like that. I like options. I like choices. I don't like one meta and you either have it or you don't. Next up, we have good old Mark. So this is again about choices. We talked about Mark, and I heard a lot of theorizing that this unit was an SDS unit and not an SDR. And I've got to tell you, I used this unit in SDR, and I really enjoyed it. The thing is, you really need Guidance 4 and Catria to get the most use out of him. But how many units have we said that about? And he really goes so well into those teams. Because he can set up as a nuke, you're not worried about keeping him in the back like you do a lot of the times with Duo Thor. Also, you have a lot of tankiness with the unit. I'm a big fan of the playstyle. I'm a big fan of the unit in general. I'm a big fan of choices, though. So having different ways to go about making teams, I think, is excellent. I think we saw some of that in here, more in SDS and SDR, and the reason is because of this next team, Cavs. Now, you guys probably all saw the PM1 video where he extolled the wonders of the conga line, and then everyone used that conga line. What I'm showing you here, and I actually built one of these, but I wanted to show where I got this from. And this is a player named Fieri who is very good and has kind of pioneered this for the last couple of seasons. Huge Carla fan, and when you're looking at these, make sure that when you're constructing them, you have different nukes that can do different things. And this is kind of the weakness of PM1's team, which is not a knock on PM1. Understand that he just didn't have Carla, whereas Fieri does. And so you've got AoE nuke with Selif, you've got the unit that just absolutely destroys any kind of Pavis or near save in Carla, and you've got Crom, who is both a refresher and a really good unit himself. So make sure when you build these cav lines, which have been very good the last couple of seasons, depending on the map, they will continue to be good. If they continue to have these long stretches where you can do end arounds, I think they will still be good. If they kind of close us off again, we'll go back to the flyer meta that we were at. But that being said, make sure you have different options, different choices with these, and they will really, really reward you. All right. Next up is Guard Bearing 4, and I am going to try desperately to pronounce this name right, and I am going to not do it. So I'm going, yeah. So this is Hábiluca. Hábiluca. There we go. This is a FEHtuber. I will include a link in the description. He does the best combos series, which I have just fallen in love with. Every time these come out, I jump at my screen and I can't wait to get it open. Like it's a really good series talking about which units pair best with other units. And what he's done here is really interesting with Guard Bearing for Cordelia. And this is probably my favorite use of Guard Bearing 4 is with either Cordelia or Catria. And they are monstrously beefy with these setups. We were doing some sims and doing some examples in the Discord, and Catria was tanking a fully decked out Crom, like Brave Crom with way too many stats. So understand that this unit is very serviceable, but it takes them up a level as a frontliner. And in particular, in a season like Erosion, you get a unit that can be a frontliner and also have Guidance 4. And so just gives you tons of mobility. But look at this. Robin is hitting Cordelia twice. And Cordelia doesn't die. Like, that is nuts. Like, adaptive damage and everything. Robin hits hard and just can't get it done. So, Guard Bearing 4 is fantastic and a skill you should be looking at. I'm not necessarily saying that this is a must-have, but this is an incredibly nice to have if you're using either Cordelia or Catria as a frontliner in a Summoner Duels or on your defense. Both of those, I think this makes her a very usable unit and just a lot of fun. The last thing I want to talk about, and I feel like this year so far has been the year of new fodder. Like, that's just been the way things have been going. So I wanted to go over some units that I like the fodder on and kind of continue over what we did with last month. The first is Lucia and Distant Attack Speed Solo. Understand that you can invest in Lucia with no fear. Like, this unit is going to be around a while. I understand the reservations with speed stacking, but they are taking away conventional speed stacking anyway. In terms of Embla, and I I think with Maria releasing, we're going to see a lot more effects like Bramamond, like the feud skills. And that means that you're not going to be able to get drives on units like you used to anyway. And that means units like Alucia, they don't lose points because you can't speed stack them, because you couldn't speed stack anyone else anyway. So that's kind of my logic there. And there are so many things. I mean, just watch the Omni Tank episode. Like, this unit is amazing. So invest in this unit. Don't worry about it. She's going to be good for a long time. Catria. One of the most valuable units in the game, and I talked last time about Guidance 4, Attack Speed Unity, because you can get both of those from Tana, and now suddenly you have Guard Bearing 4 you can put on there because you can make her even more ridiculous. I invest in this unit and don't look back, Summoners. This unit is fantastic. Okay, the last one. So the first two, I think, are staples and you can go forth and conquer. This last one I wanted to bring up because this is something that you probably haven't thought of. And Heroic in the Discord has just gone on and on about this Rhea, and I had to show off exactly what kind of build we were looking at. If you were a Rhea fan, and she was kind of ahead of her time, there were a lot of things. She came out and had a really hard time dealing with Cromp, who I didn't realize was going to stick around as long as he did, and is still around to a certain extent. But now we have Attack Res Scowl 4 that can really keep a lot of crazy things from happening. We have Armored Beacon, and the combination of those two, it means that your first hit isn't going to have a special because Attack Res Scowl gets rid of it. Your second hit is going to be Armored Beacon, and both of those are going to have True Dragon Wall. And that also means that AoEs aren't going to be able to penetrate this unit as well. This is a really fantastic build, and I think this is fun on defense and very usable. I'm a big fan of this, and I think this is really neat. Summoners, I feel like I should have talked more about Maria, and you're going to be seeing more of her. But understand that healers in general are going to get a boost just because IS is about to put out Seer Snare, and we're about to see that come out, and healers are the unit that they're saying is the key thing in Seer Snare. So understand we're going to be seeing more healers, and yeah. So real quickly, I just wanted to thank members, and you guys are absolutely fantastic and let this show do so much more, and I appreciate it. If you like the content, you can definitely become a member. You can super chat. Even if you just like the video, I appreciate it greatly. Like, you guys have been so good to this channel and to me. So I just thank you guys. Anyway, take care and schedule an appointment with your FEHology real soon.